The last girl in the cage. The auction house on planet Craxus 4 was full of noise, flashing lights, and cruel laughter. Alien buyers from many worlds sat in high seats watching from behind glass. They bid with credits, weapons, even rare gems. Slaves were dragged out one by one, some weak, some broken, all silent. Most were sold within minutes. The final cage rolled forward at the end. Inside, it sat a girl, alone, unmoving. Her chains were thick, her clothes torn. Her skin, shimmering silver with deep red marks, glowed faintly under the lights. Her eyes were wild, untamed, dangerous, alive. The auctioneer, a fat alien with 6 arms, grinned. Last offer of the day. Item 47, captured on the edge of the Xerian war zone, too wild for prison, too smart for training. You know her name, the Untamable one. He slammed his hand on the button. Starting bid, 10,000 credits. Silence. No one moved. She killed her first owner, someone whispered. She ripped out a trainer's throat. She's cursed. No one controls her. The auctioneer laughed nervously. Come now, look at her, perfect form, perfect strength. Maybe dangerous, yes, but only until tamed. Still, no one bid. The girl in the cage didn't speak, didn't blink. She just stared through the bars like a wolf waiting for her chance. Then from the back of the room, a voice spoke. I'll take her. Everyone turned. A human stood alone. Tall, in a long coat. Quiet. Calm. His name was Callan Dross. The room murmured. Human? Does he know who she is? He's crazy. The auctioneer blinked. Sir, you understand the risk? Callan walked forward and placed a single credit chip on the table. No one else wants her. That's enough, right? The auctioneer laughed nervously again. Yes. I suppose so. He pressed a switch. The girl's cage unlocked with a loud hiss. The guard stepped back, afraid, but the girl didn't move. Callan walked to the cage slowly. He didn't draw a weapon, didn't speak loud. He just opened the door. She stared at him with glowing, angry eyes. Then after a long silence, she stood up and walked out. No chains, no fight, just quiet. Callan nodded once. Let's go. And they left the auction together. Back on his ship, the Red Ember, Callan guided her to the passenger room. He didn't touch her, didn't force her to speak. He just gave her a blanket, a bottle of water, and space. She sat in the corner, silent. He closed the door behind him. Hours passed. She didn't move, didn't sleep. But she listened. Every sound, every step. When the darker opened again, Callan placed a tray of warm food on the table. Still, she didn't touch it. I'm not going to hurt you, he said simply. No answer. I didn't buy you to own you. She looked up finally. Her voice was rough, broken. Then, why? Callan met her eyes. Because no one should be locked in a cage. She stared at him for a long time, then looked away. But her fingers slowly reached out and took the food. Just one bite. But it was a start. Outside the ship, stars moved quietly in the black sky. And far away, someone watched the auctions feed. Figure in a dark control room replayed the video of Callan buying the girl. He zoomed in on her face. She escaped us once, the figure said coldly. Now she's with a human? A second figure asked, do we chase? The answer came sharp and fast. Send the order. Find the ship. Find the girl. Alive or dead. Bring her back. She refused to speak. The ship Red Ember floated silently, through deep space. Inside, the air was quiet, almost too quiet. Riva, the alien girl once feared by every buyer at the auction, sat curled up on the floor of the passenger cabin. Her arms wrapped around her knees. Her silver skin had lost its glow. Her eyes, once wild, now stared at nothing. Across the hallway, Callan watched from a cracked monitor. She hadn't moved much since they left Craxus 4. She hadn't eaten more than a few bites, and most of all, she hadn't said a single word. He brought her food again, warm, simple, quietly placed on the table, He never forced her, never asked questions. Sometimes he left small things too. A soft blanket, a new set of clothes, a book filled with drawings from Earth. She never touched them, but she noticed. He could tell. Later that night, Callan sat in the control room, staring out the window. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't even a good man, not really. Just someone who had seen too many cages, and too many people left inside them. Riva was supposed to be dangerous. A killer, a weapon. But when she looked at him that first night on the ship, he saw no monster, only a girl who had been hurt too many times. The next day, Riva moved. Just a little. She stood, walked to the mirror in the corner, and stared at her reflection. She touched the mark on her collarbone, a thin scar shaped like a star. Then she pressed her hand to the glass, leaned forward, and whispered one word. Why? Callan heard it through the mic. He walked to her room and stood at the door. Because someone had to, he said. Riva turned sharply. Her eyes narrowed. That's not an answer. No, he agreed. It's not. But it's the only one I have. She stepped closer. If you think you saved me, you didn't. I know. If you think I'm safe now, I'm not. I know that too. She stopped, then asked, Do you know what they did to me? Callan shook his head. I don't. She looked at him with eyes full of fire and sadness. Then don't pretend to understand. She turned away again, but Callan didn't leave. You don't have to tell me, he said. Not now. Not ever. He placed something on the table, a small voice chip. You can use this if you don't want to talk or write or scream. I'll listen either way. She stared at it, didn't touch it. But when he left, she picked it up. That night, Callan heard the first real sound from her room, not words, not crying, just breathing, heavy, sharp, like someone trying to remember how to exist. Then, the alarm beeped, tracking signal detected. Callan rushed to the console, a drone, small, fast, watching, sent from somewhere close. He cursed under his breath. Someone's following us. He ran to Riva's room. She was already standing, alert. You felt it, he said. She nodded. They'll come soon, she said. They always do. How do they find you? She tapped the side of her neck. Old code. Buried deep. Not one I can shut off. Callan stepped forward. Then let's take it out. She froze. No one's ever said that before. He met her. Eyes. I'm not like the others. She laughed once, cold, bitter. No, you're worse. Why? Because you're making me hope. He didn't reply. Instead, he went to his tools, powered up the med scanner, and said, Let's shut the past off then. The chains in her mind. The med bay of the Red Ember was quiet. The only sound was the hum of the scanner as Callan moved it slowly over Riva's neck. She sat on the edge of the medical table, stiff but calm. Her hands gripped the edge. Her eyes stared straight ahead, not blinking. She didn't trust machines, not after what they had done to her. But she was trying, for him. The scanner beeped. A red dot appeared on the screen. Device detected, deep subdermal implant, type remote command control, status dormant, locked to Helix authority signal. Callan frowned. It's still active, just sleeping. Riva didn't look surprised. It only wakes when they want. Me to kneel. He looked at her. How long have you had it? She answered quietly. Since before I knew what freedom meant. Callan turned to his toolkit. He pulled out a micro-laser scalpel and numbing spray. It's going to hurt, he said. She didn't flinch. I was made to handle pain. He looked at her. No, you weren't made. You were stolen. Riva blinked. She had never heard anyone say it like that before. He started the procedure. She didn't scream. Didn't shake, but as he worked, a tear slid down her cheek. Not from the cut, from the feeling of it being removed, from the idea that maybe, for the first time, she could breathe without orders. It took 15 minutes. When the chip finally came out, Callan held it up to the light. Small, metal, ugly, but powerful. It had once controlled her arms, her legs, her voice. Now it was just a broken thing in his hand. Riva stared at it, then asked, "Can I keep it?" He nodded and dropped it into her palm. She looked at it for a long moment, then crushed it between her fingers. The pieces fell to the floor. She exhaled, long, deep, then whispered, "That was the last chain." Later, she sat in the engine room watching the power core spin. Callan walked in and handed her a cup of warm tea. She accepted it this time. "You should rest," he said. "I can't," she replied. "Nightmares?" She nodded. "But not from sleep, from memory." He sat beside her. "Tell me." She took a breath. "I was raised in a room with no windows. Every day was training, fighting, obeying commands. They taught me to fear freedom. To think on my own was to invite punishment." Callan was silent. She continued, "I bit my first master because he tried to reprogram me. You were right to do that," he said. "I thought they would kill me. Instead, they sold me." She looked down at her hands. "Every time someone tried to own me, I became something worse. Until I didn't know who I was anymore." She looked at him. "And then you opened the cage." Callan didn't speak. Instead, he took something from his pocket. A small stone, rough brown, unshaped. "I found this on Earth when I was young. I kept it to remind me that something ugly can still be real, still be mine." He placed it in her hand. "You're not finished yet, Riva. You're just starting." That night, for the first time, she slept, not with one eye open, not chained to a wall, but in a warm bed. No orders, no watchers, just peace. But far across space, a signal woke. Inside a military base, red lights began to flash. Subject 19. Signal lost, tracking disabled, threat level. Undefined. A voice in the dark said, "She's waking up." Another replied, "Then send the hunter, before she remembers who she really is." The ones who want her back. Riva stood in the ship's main corridor, watching the stars pass through the window. Her hand still rested on her neck, where the control chip used to be. It was gone now. She was free, but freedom didn't feel like she thought it would. Not yet. Behind her, the door slid open. Callan stepped in with 2 steaming cups. "You're up early." Riva didn't look away. "I never really sleep. I just close my eyes and hope nothing touches me." He handed her a cup. This time, she took it without hesitation. They drank in silence for a moment. Then the ship's console beeped. Incoming signal, priority code. Red bounty alert, class black. Subject 19. Callan stepped forward and tapped the screen. A message popped up. "Subject 19 has escaped control. Armed, dangerous. Reward for return, 2 million credits. Warning. Do not engage without force authorization." A still image appeared. Riva, her face, her glowing eyes. Except this photo was different. Cold, lifeless, and marked, property. Callan turned to her. "They've issued a bounty." Riva didn't react. "Knew this would happen," she said. "They always find a way to pull the leash again." Callan clenched his fists. "You're not going back." Riva looked at him. "They won't just chase me, they'll come for you too. Anyone who helps me." "I'm not afraid of them." "You should be." She walked toward the table, eyes dark. "They don't send teams for me, they send him." Callan frowned. "Who?" She hesitated, then said one word. "The hunter." Back on a military ship deep in black space, a dark figure stood before a line of command screens. Tall, armored, face hidden behind a black mask. His voice was low and mechanical. "Where is she?" The officer spoke quickly. "She escaped tracking. But bounty signals are out across 5 systems. The figure picked up a long silver spear from the wall. I don't need signals. I remember her scent. Back on the red ember, Riva stared at the bounty image again. Callan watched her closely. He hurt you? She nodded. He trained me, beat me when I failed, praised me when I obeyed, but never once called me by name. Callan sat beside her. You're not that person anymore. She looked at him. Then who am I now? You're Riva. He said it softly, like the name was something sacred. Suddenly, a red light flashed on the screen. Long-range scan alert. A ship is tracking their trail. Large, fast. No ID, Riva stood. It's him. Callan began preparing the jump drive. We can still run. But Riva didn't move. I'm tired of running. He looked at her. She clenched her fists. He taught me to be a weapon. You taught me to be a person. I don't want to hide that anymore. Callan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, So we stand together. The two of them walked to the storage bay. Riva picked up a part of her old armor, the same armor she once hated. But now she touched it differently, not with fear, but control. I won't wear all of it, she said, just enough to remind him, I'm not afraid. Callan checked the ship's defenses. He turned to her. Ready? She smiled. Not a big smile, but real. Yes. Above them, space cracked open as the hunter's ship dropped out of light speed. He stepped onto the surface of the small moon where Red Ember had just landed. The hunt was on. But this time, Riva was no longer prey. She unleashed herself. The moon was dry and cold. Wind rolled across its silver hills. In the distance, rocks cracked under the weight of a ship that had just landed. The hunter stepped out, tall, silent, covered in black armor with red marks, his face hidden by a helmet, with no eyes. His movements were slow, deadly. In his hand, a long spear hummed softly. Not just a weapon, a signal to anyone who had ever tried to run. Subject 19, come out, he said. Let's end what never should have started. Inside, the Red Ember, Riva stood by the ramp. She had put on pieces of her old armor, but only on one side. The other side remained bare. Her skin glowed faintly with soft silver light. Her eyes were clear now, no longer wild, no longer broken. Callan checked the ship's defense turrets. His hands were steady, but his heart raced. You don't have to go out there, he said. Riva shook her head. He trained me, hurt me, chained me. If I run now, I stay a slave forever. She looked at him. You gave me a chance to feel like more. Now I have to fight to keep it. Callan nodded. Then I'll be with you. She touched his hand. No, this is mine. The ramp hissed open. Riva stepped out alone. The hunter turned to face her. You look weaker, he said. She answered, You always feared my strength. He raised his weapon. I gave you life. I can take it back. Riva took one step forward. You didn't give me anything. You just tried to break what you couldn't understand. Then her body began to glow. Not bright at first, but growing stronger with every heartbeat. The hunter charged. Fast. Too fast. But Riva didn't run. She raised one hand, and the air cracked with force. His spear missed by inches as she pushed him, back with a wave of energy from her palm. He landed hard but stood again. You're just a failed project, he growled. No, she said. I'm the one who lived. They fought across the rocky field, spear against light, training against instinct. She was faster now, sharper. She dodged strikes that once would have broken her. She hit with force powered by more than muscle, powered by choice. The hunter began to fall back. He had never seen her like this. Not afraid, not angry, free. But he was clever. He tossed a tracking dart. It hit her leg and triggered pain. Riva cried out and dropped to one knee. The hunter walked toward her slowly. Still weak, he said. Still mine. But then he stopped. Something was wrong. The glow around her changed. It shifted to white-blue fire. She stood. The dart melted off her skin. Her voice was low. I used to hold back because I didn't want to become like you. She looked him in the eye, but now I know I never was. She raised both hands, and the ground around her exploded with light. The hunter was lifted off the ground and slammed into a rock wall with a deep crack. His armor sparked. His helmet broke open, just enough to see his shocked eyes. Riva walked toward him. He tried to raise his weapon. She stopped in front of him and crushed it under her foot. I am not your weapon, she said. Then she turned and walked away. Back on the ship, Callan was waiting at the ramp. He ran to her and caught her just before she collapsed. Her body was hot. Energy still flickering under her skin, but her smile was tired and real. You did it, he whispered. She nodded slowly. I'm still here. As the ship took off, leaving the moon behind, Callan watched her rest on the medical bed. He whispered to her, You didn't just unleash your power out there, you unleashed yourself. Far behind them, the hunter's body lay broken, and across the stars, the name Riva began to spread, not as a warning, but as a story, of the girl who was never truly tamed, because she was never a beast. She was becoming something more. The bond they never expected. The stars outside were peaceful again. Inside the ship, Riva rested in the med bay. The lights were soft. Her breathing was steady, but her body still glowed faintly with leftover energy. Callan sat nearby, watching her. He had seen many strange things in his life. Alien tech, bounty hunters, star beasts, but he had never seen anything like what Riva became. Not a weapon, not a monster, something more, something human. A few hours later she woke. Her voice was dry. Water? Callan smiled and handed her a cup. She drank slowly, then leaned back. You stayed? She asked. He nodded. You didn't think I would? I've never had anyone stay after seeing what I really am. You mean powerful? She gave a small laugh. Dangerous. He looked at her for a moment, then said softly, You were dangerous to the people who tried to chain you, not to me. She was quiet for a long time, then said, Back in the lab they said I was broken, that no human could ever connect to me. They called it a failed imprint. Callan frowned. Imprint? Riva nodded. They tried to link me to a handler, someone who could control me with thoughts and voice. It never worked. She looked at him. But since I met you, I've been changing. Not because of orders, because of choice. She stood slowly, walked to the window, and looked out at the stars. I feel more like myself when I'm near you. It's strange. He stepped beside her. Maybe it's not control, he said. Maybe it's trust. She looked at him. No one's ever given me that. He smiled. You earned it. Later that day, Riva sat in the common room, legs folded, studying an old book Callan had brought from Earth. It was filled with drawings, people, animals, trees. She traced one picture with her finger. A tree with deep roots. What is this? Symbol of growth, Callan said. Something that starts small but becomes strong over time. Riva touched her chest. Then maybe I'm a tree. He smiled. A strange one. But yes. That night, they watched the stars in silence. Then, Riva turned to him. Why did you really buy me that day? He thought for a long time, then said, Because no one should be left behind like that, and because when I looked at you, I didn't see a killer. What did you see? He looked into her eyes. I saw someone still fighting to stay human, even if she wasn't born like one. Riva's eyes softened. No one had ever said that to her. She looked away, her voice quiet. If I wasn't made in the normal way, can I still be a person? He nodded. You already are. She smiled, gently like light breaking through dark. But far away, in a cold black station, A council watched the old bounty feed. Subject 19 has broken the link. She's formed an emotional bond. She should not have survived. A final voice spoke from the shadows. Then she's no longer an asset, she's a threat to the system. Another added, end her before she starts something bigger than herself. Back on Red Ember, Riva placed her hand over her chest. There's something inside me, she whispered. It's still changing, still waking. Callan looked at her. Is it dangerous? She shook her head slowly. No, I think it's beautiful. No longer untamable. The sun rose slowly over the quiet moon where the Red Ember had landed. Riva stood outside the ship, bare feet in the soft dust, her eyes closed. Her skin no longer glowed with energy, it shone with peace. Inside her, the storm was quiet. She was not a weapon anymore. She was not a slave. She was herself. Callan stepped out behind her, 2 cups in hand. Tea, he offered. She turned, smiled, and took one. Still bitter? Still terrible, he said with a grin. They stood side by side, drinking in silence. For the first time since the auction, there was no fear. Riva looked at the rising sun. I used to dream about running. Running away? Callan asked. She shook her head. No, just running, freely, without being chased. He nodded. How does it feel now? She closed her eyes. Real. Later that day, Callan helped her open a sealed box hidden deep in the ship. Inside were small Earth tokens, photos, stories, pieces of memory. Riva picked up a folded cloth, a flag, faded, torn, but still whole. What is this? A sign of unity, Callan said. On Earth, people used to raise it after they won freedom. She touched the fabric gently. I want a sign like this, something to mark who I am now. He smiled. Then we make one. They found scraps of material in the cargo hold. Riva chose colors. Silver like her skin, red for the pain, and blue for the peace she finally found. She stitched it herself. Each thread was a memory, each shape a part of her journey. When it was done, they raised it outside the ship, a new symbol, not for a nation, not for a lab, but for one life, reclaimed. But peace never lasts forever. That night, a message came through the ship's comms. To Subject 19, your existence is unauthorized. Your removal is ordered. You are not real. Riva listened to the voice, then walked to the console, pressed the reply button and said one sentence, "You don't get to define me anymore." Then she shut off the signal, for good. Callan looked at her. No fear? She shook her head. Let them come. I won't run. I won't break. I'll show others they don't have to either. He walked to her side. And I'll stand with you. The next day they left the moon. The stars opened ahead of them, bright, endless. Riva watched them from the window. She spoke softly. They called me Untamable. Callan raised an eyebrow. You were? She smiled. Not because I was wild, but because I was never meant to be owned. He nodded. You're not untamable anymore. She looked at him. What am I then? He answered simply. Free. Somewhere in the galaxy, the story of the girl once bought at an auction began to spread. A girl who escaped every chain. A girl who chose her own name. And a girl who taught a broken world. One simple truth. Freedom begins the moment you believe you deserve it.